Hi guys, it's Colleen, and today I am writing, so I thought I'd show you that. I'm not really an expert. I have been writing for a long time, but I'm not like published or anything. So I'm not trying to teach you anything actually, but I just thought I'd show you what I do and how I write. And you don't have to take it as like an expert opinion or anything. Let's just talk about it. Let's just hang as buddies. And I could tell you about my writing process as a friend beside you, looking up at the same sky. It's about to rain and like the thunder is really, there's no way around it. I'm just going to have to push through because for the life of me, I cannot wake up early and I take a really long time to get ready. So I always end up at this hour. I've set up more lights this time, but I'm not sure if that is enough to save us. But anyway, the thing that I'm writing now is actually a book 2 manuscript. The initial story has themes of like, I'm not really gonna go into the premise just because it'll take a long ass time to explain, but it has themes of like royalty, modern royalty, and arranged marriages and whatnot, rom-com slash drama. The book that I'm writing now is like a second manuscript, a book 2 manuscript, which I know you're not supposed to do. If you have plans of publishing, I've watched like multiple traditionally published authors warn you against, if you're about to like submit, warn you against writing like a series. But I'm not only writing to like, of course I would want to publish in the future, but writing is just like therapeutic to me. I love the idea of like creating this whole other world. And please don't psychoanalyze me, but yeah, it's therapeutic to me. It's I like the idea of escaping to another world. That was a long-winded way of explaining why I'm writing a book 2. But yeah, I'm writing a book 2. But I will explain my process before writing, like after the idea, what do I do for an initial book. And this might not be the way that other writers do it or like how the experts do it, but it's just my process. I sort of have a film-like process to it. My process starts with the idea, of course. I get ideas from like all sorts of places. Sometimes I'd hear a name and it would be enough to like spur a whole story like from start to finish just from that name. And yeah, that's what happened in this book. And after writing down that idea, I do another like more detailed premise and I jot down like the major and minor conflict of what I want to happen. I know that this is not the thing that all writers do because some writers don't like to like structure everything from start to finish because for them it takes away the magic. But for me, my motivation for an initial idea really needs that boost because I'm not always motivated. So I find that when I have that initial spur of inspiration, it's more helpful to me to jot down like not really a super detailed, but like a skeletal structure of what I want to happen from start to finish. After I jot down that initial idea and like the initial premise, I write down like character profiles, of course. For this book, I have quite a large number of characters. I have 2 families, and one side, the Poitiers, have 6 kids, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. And on the other side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, 4 brothers, and 1 girl. So there's a lot of characters all around the same age. And as a reader, I love books that have a lot of characters, especially when they're given justice, like not just screen time wise, but I really like a well-developed character. If it's done well, it doesn't matter that you have like a dozen characters, as long as they're all given like great differentiation within the book. And yeah, I like to write like character profiles, which is what I did also when we were like script writing in school. I don't really have a title for it yet. I've just been calling it Modern Royalty, and I started writing the first book in 2019, I think. The initial idea came to me after I heard the name Dimitri, and of course, since I already made mistakes in the past, resulting in shelved or unfinished manuscripts, I really made it a point to like jot down everything that I wanted to happen while it was still fresh, so that on days that I wasn't as excited or like as motivated to write, or like if I had a really bad case of writer's block, sometimes for me that would last weeks on end, and sometimes looking back at that skeletal structure helps me to push through. In the initial file that I have like a working title, whatever I imagine it to be. I don't really have anything yet, but I have like ideas and the themes like modern royalty, nobility, coming of age, rom-com. So just so I would have that. I know this seems really rigid, but it's just my style. And yeah, I write ideas of like the major like premise, the main conflict, and the minor conflict. As for the character profiles, I just wrote down like the names of the family members. As a reader, I have like an unnatural judgment towards names, because you'll be looking at that name for like the whole book. And sometimes if the name is really ugly, I'm not really keen on naming like a specific name in case that's your name. But yeah, sometimes if it's a name that I'm not like fond of, it puts me off. And I also, because my imagination sometimes it's not as vivid as I want it to be, so I like to write down like basic physical traits of each character, because there are a lot of characters. It helps me to remember what they look like. Of course, I have their appearance in my head, but sometimes, you know, when you read something and it says blonde hair, blue eyes, but the thing that you've already loved in your head is a dark-haired guy, and you can't really take it out. Sometimes that happens to me when I write, so I have to remind myself, like, his dad has this hair color, so you can't give him this kind of hair color. Stuff like that, like just continuity. I just wrote down the dad, the mom, what they look like, and all the siblings, what they look like, what their personality is. Just so I could have, like, it's not really like detailed paragraphs of how they would act and how they are. It's just like adjectives, and just so I can be guided by that. Like, would he do this? Is it in his personality? I also like to write down ages. I wrote down their ages because there are a lot of teens in this book, and I don't want to lose track of things. As for the chapter, usually I have like 30 to 40 chapters to start with, and like I adjust as I'm writing it. And each chapter usually has like about 4,000, 5,000 words. And yeah, it seems very like rigid and boring and technical, but I like having that guide. I like having that structure. Of course, it's not like full stop, finished or not finished, pass your paper at 5,000 words per chapter. Sometimes I go under, sometimes I go over. For the chapter breakdown, I do like the chapter number and what I want to establish in that chapter. I do it in like a table form, like the chapter number, what I want to establish in that chapter, how it starts and how it ends. This is getting really wordy and complicated, but yeah, that's just my process. It also helps if like I'm not motivated to write it like chapter after chapter. Sometimes I'm more in the mood to write like a fighting chapter when I'm really mad at my real life, and I have the energy to write a fighting thing or like a sad thing. Sometimes you have to write when you have the mental fortitude to write a sad chapter because it's kind of fucking sad. Only then can I write the first chapter. And as you go on, obviously there are still a lot of research that goes into it. As I said, the main theme is like modern royalty, so I get to make my own country and I get to make my own language, which is so fun. I haven't done this before with all the other books that I have tried to write or manuscripts that I've tried to write. I've never done anything where I get to make my own place, and it's so, I don't know, it's exciting to me, like making my own language and making my own story and of this country and like their previous kings and their like politics, what kind of government do they lead, what kind of like structure do they have for their, and it can get really technical because like once you try and research politics, it becomes like this whole thing. I've researched monarchies that are not monarchies anymore, and like a lot of historical references, of course, with the existing monarchies that we have in the world, like the UK and Monaco and Denmark, all of that stuff. And it gets really exciting, and like the hierarchy of royal people, I now have an unhealthy amount of knowledge. It really gives you like inspiration. Especially when you see like really pretty buildings. I've never been to Europe, but it looks hella nice, and I would like to go one day. To tell you a little bit about the book that book one of the series that I'm writing, the heroine has an American mom, and this country, this imaginary country, their dad is from there, and he's a duke there. And this girl's brothers, they're a family of five like siblings, and when their parents split up, the brothers went to head to the homeland, to this imaginary country, and the girl stayed behind to finish school. And the story starts where she's already going to the homeland, joining the rest of the family to take her place as a noble in that country. Like there's arranged marriages and a lot of other things that I'm not really gonna get into because it's gonna get really, really long. But yeah, I really like writing it. I'm at that point where, since it's the second book, I'm already attached. Actually, I shelved this one. This is about a family that buys foreclosed properties, abandoned houses, and restores them. That's the hero's family and the heroine. a girl who was found in one of the abandoned houses, all dirty and like left behind. And I shelved this one because I don't know, I just couldn't stop thinking about my characters from like the modern royalty one. And sometimes I swear they're calling to me, and I know that seems weird. And I haven't really talked to anyone who does what I do, at least in my circle of friends. This could be very weird, but sometimes I get really inspired, and I don't know if it's like a muse type thing, but I think sometimes I miss my characters and I like making their lives hell. With the research that I've done for this imaginary country that I'm making, my neurotic ass even like plotted out where it would be on the map, like where like somewhere close to Hungary is where I have decided on. And because I wanted it to like I wanted there to be like a set area, just so it would be easy time difference to like plot down a time difference. There's also like the language where you draw, and of course I'm not like crazy and psychotic and like think of like languages in my head. I don't hear stuff. So I've taken like cues from like different languages. Like I wrote it down like where the roots are from. Like it's a little bit of Russian, a little bit of French, a little bit of Greek. The names are also like this descent. You notice these things about like existing countries, so I wanted my country to have that too. So yeah, that's what I did. And this thing I'm writing now is dual POV, so that's another fucking complication, another thread, but it makes me happy. It keeps my brain occupied. And whether or not it comes to anything, or like anything happens, or like I publish it in the future or not, I'm just glad that I'm happy that I wrote it. I think that was my goal the whole time, not really to publish, but just to finish a book. I guess that's all. I feel like I'm just ranting week to week about like random stuff, but hopefully if you're scared, you'll feel better, because I'm scared too. See you next week. Bye. Have fun with your existential crisis.